Awesome. Another episode of technical explanation, and I started it with awesome, like I always do. Um, but today my guest is Dennie Uhl. He is in Tiffin, Ohio. Dennie, how you doing today, man?
Good, man. How are you? Glad to be here.
I'm really well. It's good to see you. Not with the stripes on, and we're not at. I'm not learning from you to become an official, or I'm not coaching where you're officiating. It's just cool to catch up and just talk wrestling.
Yeah, man. I was thinking about that as I've been listening to some of your podcasts, and I was thinking, well, this is probably a little different for Bryce because I was his teacher for his ref class.
Yeah. And it is a little bit different. So I got to make sure I don't say anything silly or get a rule or anything wrong. So I'm going to maybe skirt around that. But you've known about the show since it started, because I started right when I was going through your class, you and Larren Wikel's class. How was your season this year, man? How was it?
I think I have my best season I've ever had. I got to do a lot of good wrestling, and I was fortunate enough this year to get put on the state tournament for the first time. So it was my rookie year of the state tournament, which was awesome.
That's sweet, man. You are the second guest that I've had on that it was their first time doing the state tournament this year. So anyone listening, if you're an official, you probably know that's kind of a big deal, but it really is a huge deal. So I want to make sure that we talk about that. But I think if we start right there, that'd be kind of putting the cart before the horse.
Sure.
So I know you're not originally from Ohio. So tell me, how were you first exposed to wrestling?
Okay. So I'm from a little tiny town called Williamstown, West Virginia. If you know of what wrestling in West Virginia, I'm sure you've heard of Parkersburg, because that is your mecca of wrestling. That's the hotbed in West Virginia. So my little high school is actually in the same county as Parkersburg. It's about 8 to 10 miles down the road. And it's kind of overshadowed by Parkersburg and Parkersburg South, but Williamstown's had very successful wrestling seasons. So I started out in the Pee-wees there. My Pee-wee football coach said, "Hey, I think you should wrestle." And at the time, my older brother was on the wrestling team, and they were winning state championships. They had won the 2 and only 2 to this day during the 80s. And I was like, well, yeah, like wrestling's awesome because we're winning. So got on the team, went through Pee-wees, went through junior high. I was your consolation king. I don't have a lot of first place trophies. I've got a lot of third and fourth place trophies. That was where I was at all the time. So and what happened to me was I got to high school and was on the team, and I had a great high school wrestling coach. Shout out to Bob Pickens. He's in the National Hall of Fame representing West Virginia. Coached at our school for 25 years, 50 some individual state champions, 2 state championships, a lot of success, but he was my coach. And he had really good assistants that emphasized technique. And what happened for me was not so much the technique as I got in the weight room, and my dad bought this really nice weight set for us off our neighbor. And anybody that says, it's only technique, once I got in the weight room and I gathered strength, and I made some really good strengths because I was playing football too, that made my technique way better, being stronger. I mean, you can practice the moves all you want, but once you realize you've gotten a little bit stronger, then it makes that technique easier to pull off. So my junior and senior year, I really had good seasons. Started winning tournaments, started getting some recognition. My senior year culminated with I won the state championship at 160 pounds, which was awesome. That was probably the pinnacle of my wrestling career as a competitor. So that's how I got into wrestling. And then believe it or not, I went to WVU, got a physical education teaching degree, went on to Marshall University in Huntington, where the West Virginia State Wrestling Tournament is held. And my master's program was athletic administration. So you had to do an internship for your final thing there to graduate. And mine was to be the assistant to the state tournament director, which was really cool. So that introduced me to officiating, because one of my duties was I had to organize the referees at the state tournament. Like when they got there, I had to show them where their locker room was, where their passes were, and all the stuff that goes into a state tournament. And I did other things besides that. But you know, any state, all this state tournament stuff, it doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of people. So as you well know with the OAC, so it takes a lot of people, and I just got to be one of those people one year. And what was really cool for me was I met them all at the door as they came in, ushered them to their locker room, and realized, hey, these are the guys that refereed me when I was in school. And like I'm like, well, this guy was really tough on stalling, and this guy, man, he would never call a takedown, and you know, and then so that's the only way I knew them. But as I got them to their locker room, they're like shaking hands with each other. They're happy to see each other. They're not talking about wrestling at all. They're talking about kids and going fishing and their jobs and retirements. And I'm like, these are regular people. These are like, I mean, they're not talking about wrestling or being nervous or anything. So that was my first like realization that these are just regular people. They're not like enemies out to get coaches or out to get wrestlers or out to get whoever. They're just regular people. So that was my first mix with an officiating officials. And then I move on to, I graduate, I go back home, substitute teaching. The Coach Pickens retires. Everybody bumps up, and I bump into assistant wrestling coach at my old high school. And here's something neat that probably Ohio people don't know. In West Virginia, in all sports, every coach has to take, the head coach has to take the rules test every year before the season. It's part of it. Yeah. Yeah. So like you get your packet for the season, right? It's got all your eligibility and your, you know, all the stuff, the rule books and all that. Well, they also in West Virginia give you the 100-question officials test. Now you don't have to get any passing score. There's no requirement. You just have to turn one in before your team can compete in the season. So the new head coach was busy doing head coach stuff, playing in practice, whatever. And he's like, here, I'll take this test. So I get it. And, you know, I'm like, man, I'm going to crush this thing. I've wrestled my whole life. I went down through it. I didn't look anything up. I'm like, I know these.Ey're all true, false. I got them. You know, I'm like, there might be one or two I don't know. So to be an official, you have to pass 75% of this test. So a couple of weeks later before the season starts, we get the result back. And I'm like, Coach, what'd I get on that test? And he let's just say I was not going to be an eligible official. So, right then and there, I was like, maybe I don't know as much as I think I do. And maybe I shouldn't be yelling at these refs that, you know, during the preseason, some of the stuff we've been doing, I'm like, maybe I should keep my mouth shut because obviously I don't know what I think I know. And then that's what led me into officiating. The very next year, we come to the season again. I'm like, well, if I got to take this test, I'm just going to take the class. And I got certified. And then I was coaching and officiating back and forth. And then I went straight into officiating. So I did 17 years in West Virginia. I meet my wife up here in Ohio. We move up to Tiffin and been the rest of my years. So that's 7 years in Ohio. And that's where I am today. Got state tournament this year. It was awesome.
Yeah. Hey, and then you mentioned a couple of things I want to dive into, but Parkersburg isn't like Braxton Amos from there, right?
Yeah. He wrestled at Parkersburg South. Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah.
Because I remember we had a conversation about that. Anyone listening, if you don't know who Braxton Amos is, look it up. You should know if you're a fan.
Yeah.
He wrestles for Wisconsin. They're doing some great things there.
Yeah, he got into he wrestled at the NCAAs. You know, he didn't place, I don't think.
Yeah, but he was hurt all year, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in and out of the lineup all year. I'm not sure what was going on there. You know, actually, I got a funny story about Braxton real quick. He came to our little wrestling camp my school had when he was in like second or third grade. And we quickly realized that we had to move him out of the little kids group and put him in the high school kids group because he was hurting dudes. So he was a big bad dude when he was in second and third grade.
He's a monster. Shout out to Wayne Fish. He wrote a song. You ever heard of Wayne Fish?
Yeah.
Yeah. He wrote the song, the famous Braxton Amos.
Yes, the famous Braxton Amos.
That guy's a hoot, man.
Yeah, I think what was Braxton close to doing something on the freestyle circuit there? He almost got somewhere.
Yeah, he I think he was like a match away from, you know, making the team there. Which it's crazy because it seems like every weight class is like that because we're just so loaded now.
Sure.
But okay, I cover that. So and you teach at Tiffin, right?
No, I live in Tiffin. I teach at Fremont Ross.
Oh, you're at Ross. By the way, holy cow, their youth wrestling team is like, I don't know where it came from. Well, I know kind of, but
Yeah.
they had like 4 or 5 placers at OAC junior high state. I didn't see how they did this last week at grade school, but I was thoroughly impressed. Like when I was growing up, Fremont Ross wasn't where you'd go to wrestle.
Right. Yeah. You know, Chad Long, I'm sure you know Chad from Clyde.
Well, Chad Long is the reason I chose Bowling Green State University, because I saw him Northwestern in football.
Okay. Well, I talk to Chad Long every morning on the way to work. He's the head football coach at Fremont. And, you know, I get the updates on his kids are going through the wrestling program at Fremont. So, you know, I know they got one guy in the room that's coaching them up, and, you know, with Chad and his kids being there.
Yeah. Chad, anyone listening, Chad's from Clyde, Ohio, Clyde Flyers. I think he was a 2-time state champion in wrestling, I think.
He was 2-time runner-up.
2-time runner-up. Okay.
Yeah.
Either way. And like all Ohio, played college ball too. He was all around great athlete.
Super athlete. And another fun fact about Chad, his wife Jen Long is the new head wrestling coach for the Fremont girls team.
Yeah, they have like 26 girls in their program.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And so to give people that are listening perspective, like that's impressive in Columbus, Ohio, you know, or Toledo or maybe Cleveland. But Fremont is not any of those. Fremont's 20, 30 minutes away from Toledo. So it's really cool. I think that just goes to show that you can have girls wrestling anywhere, like any sort of community, because that's the type of community you wouldn't be like, that's where they're going to have a club of 26 girls.
Right. You know, Chad Long having 3 girls.
That helps too.
That helps. Yeah. And he's got a little boy too. The youngest one's a boy. So
one of the other things too, so with your teaching, don't you do like spend some time on wrestling or like officiating or something? Or that's something we talked about at one point.
Are you you're referring to the class, right?
Yeah, class.
Yeah. Okay. So a few years ago, the principal at Fremont, his name's Brian Zeller, who is a former wrestler. He wrestled at Swanton. His son actually just placed this weekend 4th at the OAC.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Shout out. Congratulations. That's a huge accomplishment. That's
Eddie Zeller.
One division tournament. That you're the 4th best at that weight in the state.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know it was one of his big season goals was just a podium, and he got to clear up to 4th place. So today he was in my room today. We were watching videos of Eddie going through. So it was pretty cool. But he came to me, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, and he said, what if we worked it around to offer wrestling officiating and football officiating? Because I referee football as well. And he said, what if we can work that way where you get licensed to be an instructor, and then we can offer it here as a class for the kids? So I kind of had to come up with like a syllabus and I had to present it to the curriculum board basically on the benefits of becoming an official or having an officials class, which mainly focused around, it's another elective for kids. It's a way to help out your community, and it's also a way for them to earn money. So needless to say, it passed with flying colors, and we offered it in the very next semester. So for 9 weeks, I teach football officiating, and the second 9 weeks I teach wrestling. So it's a semester course. You get an elective credit on your report card, and if you don't have a phys ed credit, it counts as that as well. But most of these guys and girls are sport-minded people, so phys ed's like their thing. So but it has grown tremendously. The first time I did it, I think I had 6 kids, and right now this semester I've got over 20. So
thank you for sharing that. Working at all these tournaments that I get to do, I run into a lot of folks that are wrestling folks, and they're educators, and phys ed's their thing. And I keep saying, you got to talk to Denny, man, because just imagine, you know what I mean? Like, who doesn't want to, serve, make sports possible, make money, and get the credit that you need to graduate?
Yes.
Like you said, flying colors, that's a pretty easy sell. If I was selling that product, I'd be a very happy man. So kudos to you for taking the initiative, and you're obviously your principal too, but I don't think that's a very common thing. So I would love, hopefully maybe someone sees this and inspires them to try to do that too.
Yeah. I mean, I sound a little selfish, but here, part of my job, I get for an hour a day, I get to talk about wrestling for an hour a day, and I get paid to do it. It's part of my job. It's right before lunch. We talk, in the fall it's football, but then it's wrestling. It's kind of fun because I usually work with kids in math and things like that. But because I do a special ed job and then I do a virtual school job. But most of the time, you know, I get to do this officiating class, which breaks up the day. And it's a lot of fun. I don't know if the heavyweight from Fremont that won the state tournament, Ethan Green, he is a certified official because he took officiating class.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't know about him. So by my count, I knew of 4 others. So that is 5 state placers this year, all in the top 4 that
Okay.
are licensed officials.
Yeah. Are you counting? There's 2 kids from Monroeville also.
I got them in there. I got Hayden Kuhn.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You just mentioned, and there's one other, the name's skipping me right now, but I literally went through there and checked, you know, if any of them are officials, but there's a correlation.
Yeah.
You know, maybe if you know the rules and you know how officials are thinking, maybe you can wrestle a little more strategic, right?
Yeah. We had a tournament this past weekend and I had one of those kids at the tournament, you know, and I said, put him on my mat, and we worked together, and he, you know, he made some mistakes, but they weren't no big deals. We got through it. And at the end of the tournament, I said, did you have fun? He's like, oh man, I love it. And I said, okay, now you're really going to have fun. I handed him his paycheck and he's like, holy crap. He goes, it's like, yeah, I'm quitting my job at Taco Bell. And I said, well, hold up here. You know, it's not like there's a lot of tournaments around here right now. So wait till next year and we'll get you in some tournaments. But he's like, you're going to pay me to do this, which I remember when I started, I got my first paycheck. I'm like, I just had fun around the wrestling mats all day and they just gave me like $150.
Felt kind of dirty, right? It's like,
yeah,
I'm have fun. Yeah, it's Hayden Kuhn, who I mentioned. You know, he's a junior, so he'll be a senior next year. This is his 2nd year being an official at the OAC grade school state tournament, which is a pretty well-known tournament. You know, it's the competition's there, and so it's just supposed to show, you know, it's a big deal. And if you can get your license when you're 15, like he did, you can do some amazing things.
Yeah. I mean, you start young like that, you do a good job and you get noticed pretty quick.
So you mentioned that you're also a football official. If you'd humor me, can you kind of like juxtapose and compare football and wrestling? Like, how are they the same? How are they different? That sort of stuff. And I would like, I want to know about the mechanics, but I also like to know about, I think in football, you're a little bit more separated from the crowd too. So the coaches might be chirping in your ear like they are in wrestling, but you know, that dynamic too. Does that make sense?
Yeah. There's some similarities and differences. Mainly the biggest difference is in wrestling, obviously you got a lot smaller space and less guys to watch and less things to watch for. The football rule book is massive. But that's why it takes 5-6 guys to officiate it. And the playing surface is so much bigger and there's so much more room and things to watch for. But some of the same things mechanically wise, you know, when you get evaluated, they're going to look at how good your signals are. They're going to look, are you in the right position? Because positioning means I'm where I'm supposed to be to see what I'm supposed to see. And that goes with football and any sport really. I mean, think baseball, basketball, you got to be in position. But if you study your mechanics books for both sports, they're going to put you in position. If you know where to be and what to look for and anticipate, that's what all the mechanic books are designed for. So
when you say mechanics books, are you talking about this one for wrestling, right?
Yep, the green book. Yeah,
it's awesome. The green book. Yeah,
that is I call mechanics of officiating. That's the essence of officiating. You know, I could give you a rules test and you could tell me every single rule in that book. But if you are not out there and actually see it and standing where you need to be standing and be at a distance or be able to look at what you're supposed to be looking for, you know, it really doesn't matter if you know all the rules, because if you don't see it, then it doesn't matter. So if you want to become an official, you got to pass a rules test. If you want to become a great official, you got to master the mechanics.
That's a great way to put it. You're not the first person and you won't be the last person that's told me that. You're right. Anyone can take it. I mean, think about it in school too, right? I could cram before a test and take a test and be really good that next day or whatever. But how good am I going to be later because I didn't take the time to actually do it the proper way? So, you know, it's what do they call it? I'm trying to think. Anyhow. So Ohio and West Virginia. So you worked a West Virginia state tournament when you were official there 16 years. You worked it when you were doing your internship. Was it internship, right?
I was like in the administrative part of it for my internship, and then I got selected twice to officiate it.
Okay, so you've done that twice. You've now done Ohio one time.
Yes.
Compare and contrast those ones for us, please.
Okay, well, if you take the three divisions in Ohio and count the number of schools, you're going to be over the total amount of schools altogether in West Virginia. So in West Virginia, they break the state tournament into two divisions. You got the smallest schools, which are considered A, and then the middle-sized schools are double A. They combine them to one, so A, double A. And then your big schools are triple A. So there's only two tournaments going on at the West Virginia State Tournament. There's only one qualifier to get to it. So you're put into a regional, top four of the regional go to state, four regions, 16-man bracket, which is the district piece of Ohio. But
Ooh.
there's not enough schools to justify a sectional. You just don't have
Yeah,
that.
but that, I mean, still though, if you have an off day, you know what I mean? Like you could have an off day at sectionals, maybe not get the seed that you want, and then you're back on your game next week, and you can position yourself for optimal results, right?
Sure.
But when
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
one qualifier and let's say you got a cold that week, right? I mean, that's ooh, wow. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that that's tough. Like
Yeah,
that's a
it
tough
is.
tournament.
Yeah, it is. We go from, Ohio's got all, if you think about it, really, Ohio's got almost a month of postseason wrestling, ballpark, 3 weeks. Where West Virginia's you got 2 weeks. You're going to do your league tournament, and then you're going to regionals, and then if you get in the top four, you're going to the state. But the biggest difference is, overall, Ohio has a lot more talent.
Is
You
it
got
talent or just depth?
yeah, that's what I mean. Like you're dead. Like West Virginia, we'll have a Braxton Amos every now and then. And Braxton Amos can go anywhere. It doesn't matter what state that guy's in. He's good.
He's winning.
Uh,
Yeah.
he's winning. We don't have the depth of the St. Eds and the Grahams and all those guys. Those historical teams of Ohio. We might have one. Where it's like Parkersburg South for 10 years, and then someone else might pop up there, but we don't have a lot of those. You know what I'm saying? Because the schools are so small. Like a full lineup in West Virginia is hard to find.
Yeah. Hey, isn't Wheeling a pretty good area for wrestling too? Right on the border, Ohio, West Virginia border?
Yeah, the Northern Panhandle, Wheeling. I don't have as much pay attention as much to West Virginia wrestling as I used to, but Wheeling, I think Wheeling Park just won the state tournament in the big school.
Yeah. Well,
First time Parkersburg South hasn't won in years.
yeah. Well, I just remember I was in college, but my dad still coached, so I go back and watch wrestling. And one time, the youngest upper, Troy Upper, I think it was his senior year, they went to Wheeling. Is like the Wheeling Park Duels, or I mean, it was. There was teams from Puxatawny, I mean, from all over. I mean, it was tough.
Yeah,
and
that's a good tournament.
It was a really good tournament. Yeah. But yeah, and anytime I'm in Wheeling, I always mention that tournament, and I'm talking to bankers. They could care less. Just want to see, is there a wrestler in the room? Like, who do I need to focus my attention on? Right.
Yeah, that OVAC conference is there too, where it's teams from Ohio and West Virginia make like a humongous conference, 40, 50 some teams.
Yeah, and I'd imagine that, like, I don't know, like being official down there, like trying to switch between, not that the rules are the same, but the calls are different, right? Like, so if you're on the Ohio PA border, I guarantee you, if you're officiating in Ohio, it's way different than what you're expected to how you're expected to officiate in Pennsylvania. I wonder if that's kind of the same thing down there in West Virginia and Ohio.
Yeah.
Would you say the wrestling styles are similar or different, or if they're different or similar, what would those things be?
I think West Virginia and Ohio are a lot more related styles of wrestling than Ohio and Pennsylvania.
Okay. That's a very fair assessment.
Yeah, they want to be on the mat. They like on the mat wrestling, where Ohio and West Virginia, they tend to be takedowns and they want to be on their feet. I've reffed a few national tournaments, like the Grand River Rumble in the summer and stuff like that, and you see some guys from all over the place, and you get a little bit of flack from coaches that aren't from Ohio. Like they'll be like, well, he's calling stalling because that's the way Ohio hits you for stalling, and and they don't let us wrestle on the mat. You'll hear it from these coaches a little bit, but they're probably right. It's just a different interpretation. So
yeah, I mean, some of the times they might be right. Some of the other times they might just be making an excuse, right? Because it makes makes it easier to sleep at night. So we mentioned very early on, you and Larren trained me. By the way, anyone that wants to become an official in Ohio, regardless of where you're at, they did this. Denny and Larren did this thing all via Zoom, which works perfect for me for my work schedule. I can remember the first time I was an official, I took my classes. I had to drive to Bellevue, which is 20 minutes away from me, sit for 2 hours in a classroom, right? And then drive back. We didn't have Zoom then, but this experience was great. Still got all the information I needed to do, take the test. I know I didn't do it, but then others, then you guys helped them with mechanics, showed them around and stuff. I don't really have many intentions of getting on the mat because of my work, working with wrestling and coaching and stuff. Yeah. But if you want to become an official, or you're even thinking about it, and like kind of you're just saying the class isn't worth it, I would say not so fast. Check this one out. To the point of, you guys ran that class that was scheduled, and then like 2 or 3 weeks later, 2 high school kids said, we'd like to become officials, and you did that over their Christmas break, right?
Right. Yeah, we are like the Christmas Express class.
Yeah, so there's no excuse anymore. As a wrestling community, we need officials, and we need people that love it and are passionate for the sport. So reach out to me, reach out to Denny, to do that, because you guys are going to keep doing that, right?
Yeah, actually, I just got it approved today. We're doing one on April 25th. It's posted right now on OHSAA for anybody. It's all Zoom. You can be from Cincinnati or wherever you want to be from, and we're going to do it again. I'm in the middle. Here's something I did, Bryce, with the slides. So I'm teaching these high school kids, right? And I'm a teacher by trade. And I know high school kids, you can lose them pretty quick if it's not interesting. And some of our old slideshows, there's 60 some slides to one unit. I can't keep high school kids dialed in for 16 of those slides. So I'm revamping the slides. I'm not saying the old slides are bad. They're great. They're very in depth, but I'm making it more modern a little bit with some actual visual pictures as opposed to diagrams. And then, but I'm also cutting them down a little bit so I can get through them. I'm not saying we got to rush through it. That's not what I'm saying, but it just makes it more applicable for younger kids. So it's more, my new slides are more addressed to the younger kids, because that's what I do. I'm going to be teaching this class every year in high school. So I kind of adapted that way.
No, I think what you're saying isn't too much different than something, that just happened to me in my real job with work. And, we had 60 or 100 slides, right? And you've got an hour or 90 minutes. And that isn't how people learn. I won't wax on this too long, but we learn from stories, because when you're a caveman, someone goes out and they're going to find food or whatever, and then they see a lion, they go back and they tell the story that they saw a lion. Don't walk that way, right? We are programmed to learn through stories and things like that. We are not programmed to have a whole bunch of information thrown at us and then expect us to retain it all. So what I think you just said is, I'm making my presentation more effective so that it actually resonates and people learn something.
Yeah, I try to find good pictures on the internet. It was funny today. I was working on whatever Rule 6, and I'm coming, and what comes up all the time is OHSAA state tournament pictures. There's some great pictures that give us really good examples of, okay, this is a standing reversal. This can be construed as standing reversal. So, or this is, you can see how this kid's fleeing the mat. Really great pictures out there that, I can explain fleeing the mat to you, but if you see this kid, the one guy's got a single leg and the other guy's diving out of bounds, oh, that's fleeing the mat. Yeah. So that's a lot of these real life pictures are going to make it a lot better, I think.
That's awesome. And so just so I don't forget, when we're done, remind me of those dates and send me some information so we can pump it out through the Facebook and social media channels. Because I'm going to an officials class this weekend at the Wrestle Against Autism tournament. 28 new officials, 5 females. And then they'll do 2 days of training, and then they get on the mat and officiate the matches on Sunday. And then they're ready to go and they take the test the next week.
Wow, they've been doing that.
Doing these things this way, man, this is, I believe wholeheartedly what you guys are doing is the future. And it's the way that I think everyone now, after 2.5 years of the pandemic, some people are never going back into the office ever. So learning through Zoom is just life. Yes. So why not adapt how we train officials to what they're used to doing in their real jobs?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and we use it for all kinds of stuff at school now. I mean, it's all Zoom stuff. My wife is one of those people. She works at home now, like, and loves it. So, but she's
Yeah,
always got Zoom and whatever. So,
it is pretty awesome.
her life now.
Hey, so you 6 years in Ohio and you got your first state tournament. That's actually really impressive because we all know it's hard to get that opportunity and to do that in 6 years, even though I know those 6 years are probably really long, right? If the season's really long, I'm not trying to like downplay that. But what I'm trying to say is you're doing something really good to get assigned in 6 years in.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that was one of your goals. And in wrestling, it's all about setting goals. What's your next goal? What do you want to accomplish next?
Well, I told my wife this when I got the in December, I got the email or whatever that I've been selected for the state tournament. I remember just like my jaw dropped. I'm like, what? and and so I go in and I said, she's all happy for me. And she's like, oh, that's the greatest thing. And I'm thinking, yes, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me in my officiating career. And then I immediately think, okay, what's next? Even though I haven't even done it yet. So my thought was my goal is to do a good enough job at the state tournament to get invited back at some point. I don't know if it'll be in 10 years. I don't know if it'll be next year. I don't know. Because there's a lot of really good officials that really deserve it. But my next goal, I guess, would be is that they thought I did a good enough job that they want me to come back sometime.
Okay, yeah, and then while you're there, I mean, you're being evaluated. All the rules interpreters and everyone's there.
Yes.
And doesn't it go like you can be 2 years in a row, you could be assigned, but then you have to be off a year or
Yeah.
two or something like
Yeah,
that?
that's exactly what it's 2 out of 3 years. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. That way they can cycle guys through. They can, get.
which we need to do. But so
Yeah.
potentially you could achieve that goal next year, which
Yeah.
would then tie what you did in West Virginia in 16 years, right? So in 7 years,
Yes. Yes.
I keep in track. I'm tracking. That's awesome, man. This says a lot.
Yeah. And I tell you what, kudos to OHSA. I mean, I tell everybody this, like, I've been to the Ohio State Wrestling Tournament. I watched it. And I cannot think, I mean, I can't imagine any other state in our country that has something better than the OHSAA does.
I can't either. And when you think about it and you watch some of these, and I'm not, I guess I am making a judgment somewhat. I'm not trying to, but when you think of it, it's the state tournament, it's the pinnacle of the season. For some people, it's the pinnacle of their career or whatever. Those kids, they deserve something special. And being named a state champion is something special. Don't get me wrong. Medal is great, but it doesn't matter. Like running through a 32-man bracket or a 16-man bracket in some states and whatever, and having your hand raised on Sunday or Saturday or whatever day it is.
Yeah.
That's amazing, but they deserve, kind of that pomp and circumstance. Like it needs to be elevated beyond anything that they've gone to all year. And when you're talking in Ohio, you've got Iron Man, Top Gun, stuff like that. Top Gun didn't happen this year. And they're all done really well and they're in nice schools. But there's nothing like walking up to an arena as a spectator or a fan and just being like, oh, this is serious now, And so, but yeah, I mean, but in some states, and I'm sure it's probably because of funding, but some states that state tournament's held in just a high school gym. And that's New Jersey, I think, and they're arguably one of the best states of wrestling,
I tell people this all the time. People talk to me because they know I'm involved in wrestling. I'm an official. They know, they just know I'm a wrestling guy. And they may or may not know anything about wrestling or just a little bit. I tell everybody this. Go to the Ohio State Wrestling Tournament just for like one of the days. If you want to go the first night, go the first night or all of it, whatever. It's an event to see. Whether you're into wrestling or kind of into wrestling or know a little bit about it, it is an event, man. The way they run that thing. And I'll tell you this, after officiating it, there is not one thing that those guys don't cover. Like the people that run that tournament and all the administrators and the rules interpreters, there is no stone unturned. They every minute of that tournament is planned for and has had a lot of thought go into it.
Yeah, and you know what? If you had one session that you had to pick, this is going to be pretty obvious. I have two close ones, but if you go to the finals and see that awards presentation, right, and then that video the Parade of Champions in that video.
Yes.
Right. Then the wrestling on elevated surface. Like, and that doesn't give you goosebumps at some point.
Yeah.
Then you really don't like wrestling as much as you think you should.
You absolutely hate wrestling if that's the case.
Yeah. I mean, even the national anthem, that woman's been doing that since I was in 4th grade. So 1994. I mean, she's amazing. Yeah, and we're biased. We admit it, people. We're from Ohio. We get it.
Yeah.
But you're right. They do a really, really great job. And then to that point, smart folks understand they're doing something right. Let's try to do it a little bit differently, but and that's what the OEC is trying to do, is smaller arena, obviously for younger kids, but trying to get them prepared for the day that they get to go to the Schottenstein Center and walk out in front of 20,000 people. If you've never done anything like that before, that could maybe throw you off your game a little bit.
Certainly did for me in an aspect. I get down there on Friday, we go through a few meetings. Finally, we get dressed and we head to the floor. And when you walk out to that Schottenstein, it is humongous. Like for me, like little kid, little town, West Virginia. I look up and like, there's bleachers everywhere, the big scoreboard, all the mats. It was very intimidating at first. I walked out and I'm like, holy moly. And then, but for me, once I got to my mat, met my official table workers and all that stuff, and the first set of kids come up and I blow the whistle. In the way I officiate, I was back in just some small gym. It was just me, the kids, and the mat. And
it shrunk for you, kind of just.
Yeah, it was kind of like, my focus kicked in, and it was just a wrestling match for me. Although I know what's at stake, I know it's a big deal, but for me, I thought I was going to be much more nervous, but as soon as the whistle blew, I just fell right into what I do. Which I talked to a lot of officials that I know that have been there before, and they just said, just be you. Once you blow that whistle, it'll all be okay. And, you get to the finals, and I had a really barn burner final. I had the 126 final.
In what division?
In Division 2.
Okay.
Kid got a reversal with 5 seconds to go or something to win it. And, but again, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm on this platform. There's all these people watching me. But as soon as I got him out there and I blew the whistle, it was a wrestling match. I felt very comfortable, which was a relief for me because I didn't think it'd be like that, but it really was. Yeah,
that's cool, man. Because like I've talked to some people, and maybe it's a state tournament, maybe it's like a Tulsa or some big tournament, right? Like sure. Where I'm going to use air quotes, the stakes are raised, right? But it really, honestly, if you really care about what you're doing as an official, the stakes are always the same. Like, I want to make sure I keep everyone safe. I want to call the right calls. If I make a mistake, I want to get the call right, and I want to do it, in an efficient way, right? But sometimes when you talk to people and it's their first time doing something that they perceive as maybe the next level or something like that, they're like, oh, I did this to prepare and this and this, but they don't realize everything that you've been doing before is what got you the invite to do what you're doing now. So like, you can always get better at getting better, but you don't have to like change your stripes, right?
You sound just like Toby Dunlop in the first referee meeting.
Listen, I love Toby. I've never heard him say that, but that's,
yep. But it's what it is. He said, do what you did to get you selected to be here. And they reiterated that at every meeting. You have a meeting before every round, and that's what they said. It was funny. Like we were doing I was walking around the arena on Friday before it started, and they do the big picture where they get all the refs together and take the picture for the.
Dude, I love doing those photos, but doing it at state, that'd be cool, huh?
And they give you a nice picture of it. That's like one of your.
Oh, you get it?
Yeah, they give you a picture. You get a pin for your jacket. You get a patch. You get a program that has your name in it and stuff. They do a really good job of just giving you some souvenirs to remember it by. But I was talking with Jim Vreeland, who's in my association, which we are so lucky that we were one of those.
Jim was my first teacher.
Oh,
so
okay.
From him and you and Larren.
Well, Jim's in our association, which I mean, we are luckier than other associations because we get all the fresh stuff every time because he doesn't miss very many meetings. But I'm talking with Jim. He's like, "How you feeling?" He always calls me Den. "How you feeling, Den?" And I'm like, "Oh, I feel great." And I said, after I call it fluff, all this pageantry and fluff, sooner or later, wrestling tournament's going to break out, I think. And he's like, "Yep." He goes, "Just wait for that first whistle. You'll settle right in." And, and he was 100% right. It was all fluff and pageantry, which is really, really cool. But then boom, we got kids out, they're on the mat. I don't even remember where they're from. One's red, one's green, blow the whistle and figure it out. So it was fun, man.
Man, that's awesome. I'm so happy for you. It's obviously well deserved. But now let's get a little more serious, okay?
Okay.
How
Okay.
was the hospitality room?
Um, you get lunches and breakfast, man. All you can eat. You really don't have time to eat much. They got a little bit of snacks behind the score table over there, but overall, hospitality room was okay. Had plenty to eat, but I like these little like hometown hospitality rooms that I get. Like there are. I'm not
Crock
gonna lie.
pots all along the wall.
Yes, yes. Crock-pot row is my favorite. You may, if you're on my mat, you might miss me for a little bit because I'm in there eating.
That's why you got to go 30 on, 30 off. You know, if they've got enough officials, that
Yeah.
way, I'm telling you, that's the way to go if you can.
Yeah.
Okay, so where's the best hospitality room you've ever had?
The best I ever had was at
And
the
make sure to
Clyde.
give the school and the tournament a shout out.
Well, you talk about Clyde all the time. Okay. I hear
I
you know,
do.
well, you got Robbie Jennings. We just talked about Chad Long, and they were awesome back in the 90s and all that. I get it all.
Yeah, yeah.
I wasn't around for any of that, so I really don't care about that. I always tell Chad Long, whatever. I wasn't
If
there.
my dad ever watches this, I'm gonna get in so much trouble.
But I've done the Clyde invite a few times, and I'm telling you, that has been some great food. Like you said, it's crock pots up and down the wall, man. All you can eat. Clyde did a really good job with their food. And then Mohawk out here, right just south of Tiffin, is Mohawk, and they have phenomenal hospitality.
Those were the two I was gonna mention. Actually, the Mohawk gets that they get like 16-inch subs, like whole subs, and they're just like, here you go. Yeah. And then Clyde, man, they were a wrestling powerhouse before. They're back on the come up. They've been doing this before. They know what works and how to get good officials to come back. And as silly as it sounds, I mean, other than being how you're treated and those other things in the pay, like hospitality room and like getting the contract on time and communication with where you need to be and when and everything, that's what makes officials want to work there again, because it makes their life easier. Just tell me where I need to be when, so I can do my job and we can have wrestling, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's the way it is. I mean, well-organized tournaments are, Clyde runs. I mean, I don't know how many tournaments they have with junior high.
They run at least 5 because they do a junior high one, then they do the Bubba Andrews invite, and then the day after that, they do a Beatty tournament, then they do 2 high school ones. So, when you got Flew there, Matt Flewelling, Flew is the man.
I'm telling you what, and when he starts running through those, when the tournament starts and he gets those brackets going, man, it's not a long day. They are well organized, and I mean, they're on the money with how they run that.
No, and he runs a great seating meeting, so you don't sit there and wait. From a coach perspective, you've probably never been in there, but those things can drag out. He's no nonsense. That's like, let's get to this and let's get to why we're here. Let's wrestle.
Yeah, he does the SBC, which is a great wrestling tournament.
He does a lot, dude. He was helping out at OAC the last 2 weeks.
I know he does sectionals in districts, so
he's been at like 4 or 5 OAC events this year too, helping out too. So like when he's not even doing his own stuff, he's working and learning. So shout out.
I don't even think he's a wrestling minded guy.
I think it's football primarily, but he just likes
football coach, and I think his son plays basketball or something. So
yeah, who knows? I'm just glad that we got him in the area because most of the tournaments I go to, he runs. And so I know if he says we're starting at this time, we're going to end at this time, it's like clockwork, which as an official, you like to know too, because you like to kind of divide the hours by the pay and kind of be like, right? At least I do.
Yeah, Larry Rump, he's official outside of Tiffany here. He can tell you after skin checks and weigh-ins how long we're going to be there.
Larry's awesome, man. He's quiet.
Wrestling calculators, what I call him. He can figure out what time we're going to be done. He can tell you how many matches are going to be, how many's going to be on each mat. It's amazing. I'm like, Larry, we just weighed him in. How do you even know that? So
yeah, he's quiet a lot of the time, but when he talks, you got to listen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Well, he's got 40 some years experience.
Well, yeah, and he's from Indiana originally, I think, right?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. He started out in Indiana. That's where he came from. And then he's in Michigan for a little while, but he's refed on all of them.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you would think of how much you learn in your experience in one state. Now go to other states and see how they call things maybe a little bit different, or how their meetings, that's a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
Well, so let me know. Let me ask, what are you looking forward to most next season? Like, what tournaments do you got already contracts for, or think you're pretty sure you're going to be doing? What are you looking forward to, or what do you have planned in the off season other than that class that you mentioned? Again, when is that class again?
It starts on April 25th, the first day. What we're going to do is I'm going to set up two versions of it, although it's going to be the same class. We're going to have the adult version because if you're an adult, you're not in school, you got to pay the higher price. High school kids only have to pay $35.
Dude, that's brilliant. So how are you offsetting that though? Can I ask?
So I'm going to post two classes. If you go on OHSAA, there's going to be, South Shores Wrestling Association, Dennie Uhl, blah, blah, blah. There's going to be two of them. And if you're a high school kid, one will have a disclaimer there, high school kids only for 35. And then the other one will be for adults, anybody outside of high school. So there'll be two classes there, but they'll be ran together.
And when can people sign up for that? Like, when's the start date? And I think it's live now, right? And
Yeah,
when's
the
the end date?
adult version's on there. They're currently getting the high school version, the high school kids version put in. So I would say within a week, the both will be live and you can register at any time. You just got to pay your fee and register and then you're there.
Okay. Well, let's make sure that we work together to promote that.
Yeah, I'll get you some info out and you can put it out.
Yeah.
But you were next season, I'm on the SBC again, which was a lot of fun. I mean, every weight class there is good. I've got the Hepner, which is Austintown Fitch area. And I got that through my state tournament crew. Rich Kunkel, who was my mat captain at the state. You get put on a team of three, and one guy's like the guy that's done a lot of state tournaments, and he's called your mat captain. And he was my mat captain, and he's like, hey, man, I think you did a good job. Why don't you come over to the Hepner with us, which is a 2-day tournament over his way. And I think it's pretty good schools, Cleveland area, Youngstown area. So
hey, that's a good early indicator of maybe next year, right? And
yeah, I mean, I don't know.
who knows?
But and then I got my regular schedule. This past year I got to do Graham. Graham was at Tiffin, and
Yeah, I remember you and I spoke about your super. Yeah. Where were we? We were somewhere else, and you're like, oh, tomorrow I've got the Graham.
We were at D3 Duels.
Yeah,
I only got to do Friday.
Oh, what? You didn't give that hospitality room any props?
No, well, I was busy. You're busy that first night.
I'm just messing with you. I put that in there so I can chirp Drew up for and make sure that he or Corey up for, I should say, step his game up. Yeah.
Well, I'm coming back to D3 Duels next year, so now I'll have both days. So I expect to get the full hospitality.
Yes, sir. We'll make sure.
But yeah, those are ones I'm looking forward to. And we'll see what else comes. I got a lot of my schedules already booked, but not some of my. Sometimes you get some really good duels midweek. I'm looking forward to some of those. Those don't come out till fall.
So Denny, are you on spring break right now?
No, we got 2 weeks. We go all this week, all next week, and then we're out for a week.
Okay. So when you're not being an official or working, what are some of the things that you like to do? Because I want to emphasize the human part. Like, you started this thing out so perfect. You're talking about, I saw these guys, and I realized basically what you said is they put their pants on one leg at a time. But you did it way more eloquently. But when you're not doing the stuff that we've been talking about, what do you like to do for fun, man?
Well, I have 2 step kids. One's 19, one's 17, and she's in track, the 17-year-old. And then we have a kid. Me and my wife have Sam. He's 8. So if you have an 8-year-old, you're busy. He's getting ready to play baseball. He's a big baseball guy. So I'm getting ready to just enjoy baseball season with him. He's flirted with wrestling. He likes going to practice, but he's not into the tournament scene yet, which is fine with me. And then, we go fishing a lot and we go camping a lot. We just do family. I grew up in West Virginia, and that was what we did. We went fishing and camping all the time. So I kind of do what I did in West Virginia with these guys. We got I call it camping. It's we pull this luxurious condo behind our truck. So
yeah, glamping, I think is what the kids call that.
Yes, exactly.
But, hey, if you got it, you might as well, right?
Yeah,
but I thought you were going to say fishing, and I think I might have to come to Tiffany, come to Tiffany, you teach me a couple things, because I need to pick my fishing game up.
Yeah, man, we hit the ponds around here. All these farmers, they got these big bass ponds. We do a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun going out, and then I live right on the Sandusky River. I can look out my window right now and see the Sandusky River. And
oh, that's awesome, man.
fish. You know, it's a neat little place we got here, and the kids can go out and fish and ride and get on their kayaks and stuff. So that's what
I
we
was
do.
going to ask.
In West Virginia, I do what typical West Virginia people do. So
Well, that's what everyone should be doing when the weather permits. Get
yeah,
outside, get away from the screens, right?
yes, 100%.
Yeah. Hey man, I really appreciate you having you on the show. I appreciate you agreeing to do it. I learned a lot from you when I got to take my class, and when I'm at tournaments too, I'm always that guy that comes up, and because I probably won't officiate anytime soon, that I always come up and say, hey, can you help me understand this rule or whatever? And you always quick to say, well, this is the rule and this is why it's called that way and stuff. And I think we need more officials like that, that are willing to take the time and do those little extra things. I know that, you taught me as an official, but like for coaches, I wish more coaches would just have the wherewithal to go, hey, not in the middle of the match, but after, just be like, can you help me understand? Or
I love that. I love having a conversation with a coach that's cordial and he's learning, and then I might be learning a little bit too, because I get to see what he's seeing, and I'm like,
yeah, I think it comes down to that moment though that you had as a master's student working a tournament where you finally, like, I think there's this thing where people either have it or they don't. It happens in their life or it doesn't, where you have this epiphany that, oh, wait a minute, coaches, wrestlers, and officials are not mortal enemies. Like, it takes all three of us for wrestling to even happen. And if we can realize that, now I could get heated and stand my ground when it really, really matters, or when I perceive it to.
Yeah.
But other than that, we should just be like, hey, thanks for letting me be here and coach and like stay involved in wrestling and letting that kid wrestle. It's those 2 hours of practice every day after work might be the best time of his life. Like,
that's part of his day.
So much more that happens than, on the other side, other than competition. But it can't happen without officials, coaches, wrestlers, supportive parents, and supportive administration. Yeah. So I just appreciate you for being you, I guess is what I'm saying, man.
I go through my week the same way in the wrestling season. I'm like, well, it's just Tuesday and get through the day and go to work and then pick up the kids and then make dinner. And then I'm like, but yeah, Saturday, man, I got a tournament. Can't wait to be there Saturday, So it's pretty cool. And then you get paid for it. And it's like, wow, that was a lot of fun. I got money too. So
yeah, you're not going to get rich, but you're going to have fun and you're going to end up with a net positive gain at the end of it.
Yeah, I love it, man. I just love doing it.
Yeah, I'm not an economics professional or anything, but anytime I can have a lot of fun and walk away from where I am with more money than when I came in,
yeah,
boom, I'm there.
Did something right.
Yeah, man. Hey, thank you so much for being on the show. Stick around. I'm going to stop the recording. I just want to catch up with you if that's cool.
Cool, man. I appreciate you having me. And I hope we've been spreading the word about your podcast. You're doing a great job. Another kudos thing, you probably don't hear a lot, but I've refereed some junior high tournaments, had you in it. And I tell you, I think you do a really good job with your kids and really positive. And those kids, like, I think they are getting better at wrestling every time I see them. So I like it hearing you from the corner, man.
Thank you. That made my day. Yeah. Honestly, I think I can speak for most of the coaches at where I get to coach is we understand, winning's cool. It's fun, makes you cooler in school. But at the end of the day, we're trying to produce better young men and women than what they were before they walked in the room. And if you win 100 matches or you win one, doesn't matter. I want to talk to you in 20 years and see what you're doing with your life.
That is exactly right. At Fremont, I call it be a GHB, good human being. That's all we need. Some GHBs in the room. So
boom, mic drop. All right, stay on.